Hi, my name is Sridhar Rangan. I'm the Festival Director of KASHISH Mumbai International Queer Film Festival, which is having its 12th edition right now. And you must be seeing hundreds of LGBTQ films over the last 2 weekends. But this particular weekend is going to be basically acceptance weekend. And today we have the wonderful panel discussion, Unlock with Siblings, to talk about how siblings can be more accepting or less accepting. But I'm not going to get into the entire nitty gritty, but I'm going to hand it over to SHRUTA RAWAT, basically to moderate and talk to all these beautiful people who are on the panel today.
Thank you, Sridhar, for considering me for this panel. This issue is very, very close to my heart, and especially because I have a personal stake and a very selfish, motive. I have a wonderful sibling who's been a part of my journey. And in many ways, it's heartening to see so many siblings, bond with their cousins and bond with their queer friends and bond with their queer siblings. So it's a beautiful feeling, and I'm just glad that today we are going to have a very, very interesting discussion with not just people who are young, but from people who've probably been a part of our journey, who've been a part of our struggle way before queer was accepted in our societies. And it's going to be a very, I am already getting the warm fuzzy feels over here, especially because I've got a team of people who I deeply love, who I've connected with on so many levels. So this is going to be exciting. And without, really stretching this much further, I'm going to, bring forth my first question. And this is to Vivek sir, this is to Sonal, this is to NISHTHA, that how did you come out to your siblings? Like, was it, a nice Hollywood style discussion, jahan pe, baitho, I need to tell you something important? Or was it the desi way where, you just let things be and then, acceptance directly came your way? So, yeah. So Vivek sir, I would actually love to start with you first and to just share your story. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, SHRUTA. So you just need to let me know how much drama do you want. So
I live for drama. I'm
You live for drama. Okay. So for me, like coming out was at different levels. So the first person to whom I ever came out officially was Bharat Bhai. And I came out because I was under severe pressure. And there was this pressure of marriage. And so like we had lost our mother, and my bhabhi was like the daughter of the house, and my bhabhi and my dad had taken upon themselves ke pressure dalo. He has to get married. And so one day I sat down with Bharat Bhai and I just told him that, so I said like, how would you respond if I were to tell you that I'm gay? And he was like, he didn't didn't talk. It was neither negative nor positive for about half an hour. And then the first thing he said was, but then you're always hanging around with these beautiful women. And we all thought that, like, you didn't want to accept the responsibility of marriage. So I said, no, that's not the case. This is me. This is like my real self. And he just told me one thing. I don't know whether he remembers or not. That's my Bhabhi. So wonderful to see her. So that's the mother we have. So I remember he had told me one thing at that point of time. I think Karan was about my nephew, Bharat Bhai's son. He was about 3.5 years old. And he told me that तू मेरे लिए हमेशा करण की तरह ही रहेगा. So I knew, but somewhere deep down, I was like, working if Bharat Bhai tells Bhabhi that stop harassing him to get married, then my daddy and my Bhabhi's team would be broken. Then what would they do? So for me, it started with Bharat Bhai, but Bharat Bhai at that point of time had told me one thing, that right now, I don't want you to discuss this with anybody in the family. And he said, tomorrow, if something happened, whether it's dad or bhabhi or my sister, if they respond negatively, we will not be able to handle it. He said, allow me to handle it. So after that, he did most of the handling. And then I think my father has seen Ashok Rao Kavi's photograph on the cover of Bombay Times. And my dad asked him that, isn't this the same Ashok Vivek is hanging out with these days? So he said, yeah, he's the same guy. So apparently my dad told him that, oh, he's a lost cause. Let's not bother him too much. So, which was very surprising for me that my father, like, he was the symbol of masculinity. And then I remember at one point, I had written a mail to Rekha and I came out to her through that email. And it was like, for me, it was like, a very touching moment, because here was a sibling I was closest to, and my fear of losing her was the highest. And for Rekha, like, I was that undisputed hero. And how could I tell her that I am gay, So how will she deal with it? What if she turned around and she said that, no, like, I'm not accepting this? But honestly, no major drama happened. It was like, I mean, yeah, I do have a lot of anecdotes which we can talk along the way. But for me, after Bharat Bhai and Rekha, rest of the family, they took care. I never had to come out to anyone. Today, like Bharat Bhai's daughter, his Jasmine Karan's wife, they even go for the Toronto Pride in solidarity. And it's like, I never had to tell them that I'm gay. So it just worked that way. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And Vivek sir, I think this is where we know the role that families, that siblings, that acceptance plays. And in a way, the fact that Bharat Bhai and Rekha Didi kind of protected you, shielded you from what could have probably been a hostile family back then. Not just did they do that, they've also created a generation that's very accepting, that's welcoming, that's supporting of LGBTQ allies. And kahin na kahin pe, this is the kind of lightning effect or the nuclear effect. I'm so bad with these terms, but this is how you pay it forward, you create a difference. And this is such an awesome story. This is such an awesome anecdote to take ahead.
But Shruta, something like between Bharat Bhai and Rekha, as like siblings, we are like really close.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. So NISHTHA, I'm going to come next to you because I'm still fresh from the anecdote that you shared, before our call started, where you spoke about how your brother too, had his moment, how he, supported a classmate. And so tell us more, like, this was about the classmate. What about your journey with him? Like, did you ever come out, or how did it go if you did? So, yeah.
So, SHRUTA, I remember I was pursuing my postgraduate degree, and there was a phase where I was on preparatory leave before the examination, and I was at home. I was not able to focus on anything. It was just a sleep, eat, repeat cycle that was happening continuous for a stretch of 4 to 5 days, and Paritosh was there around, observing, following his own routine, and noticing what is happening around, until a day came where I felt now I should tell mom and Paritosh about who I am and not just keep myself hiding away from them. So I called both of them. I showed them the episodes of Satyamev Jayate, and I tried giving them hints that this is who I am and I want to live a life, being the true version of self. For mom, it was difficult, but the best part that happened at that moment was Paritosh hugging me and saying that you live the way you want to, and I'm there with you. And that helped me keep moving on forward positively, despite of having a lot of challenges and obstacles that mom created. But Paritosh was always supportive, and he kept attending events wherever I wanted him to be there, or at least someone from home, If not mom, then at least Paritosh should be there. So I remember the first parent meet that happened in Mumbai. Paritosh was there with mom. I remember the pride when mom was not able to attend because of her own issues, Paritosh was there to compensate, and he was there no matter wherever it was. Even in the school, I would go to meet his teachers, and his teachers were my teachers. We studied in a boys' school, and teachers would often ask him, तो उसका boyfriend है क्या? And Paritosh should come home and tell me, you know what, Mishra ji was asking me if you have a boyfriend. क्या बताओ? मैंने कहा बता देना था ना है करके. So I would go and meet, my teachers and often tell them about how things are and how things could be. Create awareness, make them understand about the queer community, and let them know that, even if there is a queer child in school, let the child not get bullied or subject to any kind of abuse which may create an impact on them. Paritosh was never ever ashamed. Even when I went to his school on International Yoga Day to conduct a yoga session, and he was sitting right in front of me, and I was conducting the event, and all the students knew that I was his sibling, and they would often see me even in the tuitions and classes. We were there for each other. We were there to support each other wherever we would fall. We were there to, hold on to each other and save each other. So that has been a beautiful journey. In school days, of course. In college, there was another scene. He would often feel that, I am going for his PTA meetings and all, would create a problem for him. Often the security person would stop me, or something or the other would happen. And Paritosh never gave up. He would tell me, "Ye, come along." He would complain that "Tu aake na meri chugli karegi teacher ke paas." And he would not like that approach, So I would think that I have to change my approach and see what would serve him. And then came a day when he had his board exam, and he forgot his hall ticket in the physics practical lab. And like a good sister, I just came home after work late night and offered him some rasgullas and asked him, "Where is the hall ticket?" And he tells me that I have lost it. And the entire night was so difficult for me, mom, and Paritosh that I told him, "Relax, don't worry, I am there. I will come tomorrow to the examination hall and see what best I can do." I was very well prepared about the humiliations, the drama that we had to go through. But I decided that I'm not going to give up, and I am going to ensure that my brother goes to his examination hall safely. I reached out to different authorities. I kept him away from all the negativity and tried to deal with the situation. Fortunately, I could manage finding his hall ticket and give him a call before his exam, telling that I have it. You will get it after your exam. And then I see him coming in the quadrangle of Sate College and touching my feet. And I was like, oh my God. That was like, a sign of our relationship bond getting much more stronger than it was. And it just kept happening moving forward. But we did have those fights, we did have those arguments, we did have those month-long no talking time and giving each other space. In fact, I was very aggressive about a lot of things and tell him that, "Nahi, Ata, we are not going to stay together. You just move out." And he would go to Masi's house for months, and I would not call him, but then whenever he would come, I would just accept him, because acceptance is something that actually kept us together for this long. And moving forward also, we are going to be together. No matter how much of a difficulties we face, we have always stood by each other. So that's a little about us.
So, Nishka, you've spoken about, the sense of shame. Ki, is my brother going to feel ashamed of me? Vivek sir spoke about that shame, right? But at the same time, we've noticed your brother take a very, very active role, not just in defending or rather standing up for you and welcoming whatever, has come with the community and all of the changes that have happened since he's been introduced to the queer world. So, Nishra, I'm just going to take you back to the story that you shared before we started the call, where you could probably tell us a little bit about how has this interaction also shaped your brother's attitude and, has kind of made him a defender of sorts for, every queer out there who's, in the same space being bullied, being harassed. So we would love to hear that story again, if you don't mind.
Sure. In fact, I love to share this story because it it helps people understand how we could be responsible to change the world that we want to be in and to want to witness. So Paritosh studied in a boys' school as I did, and there were kids who were effeminate in the school. And in his class, particularly, we had one child who was effeminate and was not being accepted by the classmates. And because it was early class, parents were very much resilient to send their children to the same class. So we got complaints from parents saying that हमको ये लड़का class में नहीं चाहिए. We don't want this child at all in our class. So I approached the teachers and the authorities in the school to find out what we could do, if we could arrange a gender sensitization workshop, something. But they were not willing to speak about it. They were very much hesitant to talk about queer issues. They often would say that this is a sensitive topic and we don't want to talk about it. So then I thought, what best I could do? Can I speak to my sibling? Can I try talking to him and see what we could do on our level? So Paritosh started observing and sharing his observations with me on a regular basis. And every time he would share, I would ask him to make a note of it, just note it, wherever possible and see what could be the outcome, maybe after 15 to 20 days. And then he started realizing that there's no difference between that child and him, and they are all equal. It's just that he is just trying to be him, and he was not allowed to be him. He would often get mocked, bullied, and so on. So Paritosh started taking baby steps and started becoming a shield to that child and protecting him, trying to tell other kids that, we should treat this child as our friend and not somebody else. And kids started observing and like ripple effect beautifully. The class full of 70 students started accepting this particular classmate of theirs. And the teacher observed that change and she called me and she asked, what did you do? And I said, I've not done anything. It's just my brother who understands his classmate better has just told other classmates to treat him as one and not keep him away or discriminate him in any way. Paritosh was too young at that age. We have a difference of 10 years between us. But whatever teachings he could get from anyone for that matter, not just me or his friends, but even his teachers, he would take those things quite seriously and try to analyze what it could be. Now he would laugh at it, of course. I mean, he would not even remember certain things, but he made that difference. And I thought that I think Paritosh would be the strongest ally for me if I come out of the closet. And the results were beautiful. And we are together. Yeah.
Thanks for that, and good on you, Paritosh. This is a story that we all need to look back and remember, because age doesn't matter. It just takes one brave soul to say not on my watch. So yeah, so no bullying, no harassment, and thank you for taking that stand. It's very important to have many more like you to make our spaces safer. And with this account, I'm going to move to my favorite set of twins. And one of my favorite people in the world, Sonal. Rupa, I love you as well, but Sonal is. So, Rupa, Sonal, your journey literally just started together, right? Maybe 5 minute का फर्क होगा दोनों के बीच में, but nevertheless, growing up, what was it like? And Sonal, when you came out to Rupa, how did you, if at all, and how did it all play? So, over to you.
Right. Actually, Rupa and I have never really had this discussion because I don't really think that I came out to her. So I know that in my 6th standard, 7th standard, actually Rupa always knew about my crushes. So in my 6th standard, I told her about the boy I had a crush on. And I think Rupa knows me so well that Rupa knew before me that I am probably queer, right? I don't think I knew it or I accepted it, because I do remember that actually the room mein Rupa bhi baithe hai, that's our bedroom. And we both used to chat at night, and my dad used to switch off the light at a certain time, but we used to still continue talking. And one of the nights when I was in my 7th standard, Rupa actually told me that, Sonal, why do you keep talking about so many girls? And are you a lesbian? Okay. And then she laughed. So she was very lighthearted about it and has probably just got that this is the chakkar. But I don't remember what I told her or what it is, but I kind of internalized that, okay, being lesbian is not okay. So I really wish that the lights were not off that day and we would have seen each other's expression, because it took me some time to accept my sexuality after that. So the next I remember is that in my college, I continued having crushes on girls and I was still not accepting of my sexuality. And I once called her up on the phone and I told her that I like girls. And Rupa very coolly tells me कि हाँ वो तो normal है, सबको लड़कियां पसंद है. And that is it. Okay, I really thought कि वही है, सबको लड़कियां पसंद है. So I didn't make much of it, right, at that time, because I had not really had a sexual experience or bodily experience or anything like that, right? So I just thought, yeah, normal hai, and yeah, you like, and it was not such a big deal. But later, when I had a relationship with a woman, I did come to Bombay. Rupa was in Bombay that time, and I was in Goa. And that is when I think I spoke to her about having a relationship with this girl, and Rupa got it. And even after that, I don't really remember us having this kind of full blown conversation about anything, because Rupa sort of just got it.
I remember.
Oh, you remember? Okay. So in my mind, I don't know, I've emptied it out. So you'll have to tell me like what happened.
We'll totally be coming to that, where Rupa, will probably go around asking कि यार तुम्हारा क्या हुआ? How did you take the news? इन्होंने तो बता के छोड़ दिया भाई अपनी.
Yeah, I really
अपने हाथ तो धो लिए.
was on this panel. Yeah.
No. So thanks, Sonal and Rupa. So Shloka, I don't think I came out like मेरा तो outing हो गया था तेरे सामने भाई. But and this was very funny because we were in a room and someone goes around saying, "Oh, Shloka is the only straight person in this room," and Shloka is like, "Wait, no, how is that possible? मेरी बहन बाथरूम में है," and I was like, "Oh no."
So this was a conversation that we had, like SHRUTA mentioned, and we were at a common friend's house party, and we were probably half tipsy. And this person takes the liberty to out my sister, and I'm looking at her, I'm looking at Shalini, our SHRUTA's very good friend from school, and there's a lot of silence in the middle of all of this conversation, and but probably we just let that go at that point of time, and then we come back home, and because the curious person in me, and I've always seen SHRUTA with men. I've heard of her relationships with guys. I never thought, so I felt really hurt. Why is she not telling me all of this? Why is the whole world knowing and not me? But I think that was her choice to not tell, and probably let me know whenever she was comfortable telling me so. But when I did ask her, she said she is bi, and for some reason it was very well accepted. There was no conversation. We never sat face to face and discussed this, and probably this is the first time that I'm speaking about it at all. But yeah, I mean, nothing changed. She was always my sister. She always is, and she always will be. So yes.
Thanks a ton for that, Shloka. In fact, you've been one of my strongest allies. And before you knew, you would come for a lot of LGBT events. And I love the fact, and I think this is what I would take away from my relationship with Shloka, is that there was unquestioning acceptance. So but with that, we'll now go to Rekha Didi and Bharat Bhai. So Vivek sir did share a very touching account of how you both have been shield of sorts for him, protecting him from people around and making sure that the next generation that comes in is loving and accepting of LGBTQ. But when Vivek sir came out to you, how did you guys take it? Like, what was in your mind? And Bhavi, this is also for you. Thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure to finally see you in person. We've heard so much about you. Yeah. So over to you, Rekha Didi and Bharat Bhai.
So for me, the journey was also that gay as an adjective to gay as a noun. So like Vicky had said, in his video earlier, that you say it and the other person does take, because you come out, but for the other person, it is the start of the acceptance. It did take some time. I wouldn't say no. But having said that, one thing, as Vicky put it, that all my friends were more friendly with Vicky. And I said, how is that possible? I mean, I come next and he comes first always for all of them. And I have been vying for that attention, forever. And I said, oh my God. And I really, I said, but that doesn't change. That still remains the same. He still gets most attention. That doesn't change. So for me, that the thought was there, but these thoughts always kind of took more attention than that. So that was okay. Chalo ho gaya, pata chal gaya. Okay, we will take time in understanding. So these aspects did. I mean, it took time. I wouldn't say no on a serious note, but ultimately, he has always been my inspiration, and he has. I mean, I always have been competing for his attention, even then, even now, and nothing changed.
The emotions that played at the back of your mind was so evident, and that journey is out there. It's a beautiful thought process, and thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for trusting us with these emotions. I'm going to ask Rupa now, right? Because Sonal has, and Rupa very, very clearly said, I remember. So Rupa, over to you. Do share what happened after Sonal, dropped her form.
So I actually remember things quite differently. And like you must have in multiple of, so like in a lot of talks which Sonal has given, she mentions that we had that conversation where, I asked her, is she a lesbian, which I don't remember. But I do remember one thing is that, so since the time I was really small, like way back till like when I actually was really conscious, like 3 or 4 years old. So at that point in time, you're so small, right, that you don't have a language to actually say what you're feeling. But at that point in time, I remember very clearly that I used to feel like she's a boy. So I used to keep telling her that you look like a boy, you look like a boy. And I even have evidence, like I've actually written, like I was seeing in my room, like when I've been really small, I've written that, in really childlike handwriting and all wrong spellings, I've written Rupa is a good girl and Sonal is a bad boy. Okay. So I remember that this thing used to keep, like, I don't know how come I used to feel this way, but I clearly remember feeling that she is looking like a boy to me. Though we used to, like, Sonal's haircuts are something which are an introduction to at least our lives very recently. We used to look exactly the same, and in fact, we used to have hair which was, knee length. So at least appearance wise, we were completely feminine. So whatever this vibe was coming from somewhere which I could, somehow feel. So I remember that throughout I used to keep calling her or telling her that you look like a boy. And I remember that once this conversation which we've had, which she mentions multiple times, where, so of course we were entering into adolescence. So during this age, of course, especially when you're in a slightly conservative background, you don't quite openly say that, oh, I love this person or I have a crush on this person. It really starts with you really talking about that person all the time. You're trying to, get them into the topics that you're talking. So I remember I was doing the same thing about somebody in the class who was a boy, and she was doing the same thing with a girl. So how I remember it was that, like, I remember, like, it's not the first time that I've asked her that question, but I remember asking her that, are you a boy? Not like how she remembers, are you like a lesbian? But I remember asking this particular question, are you a boy, multiple times. So of course, so I used to keep feeling this vibe. So every time I was, sometimes when you feel a certain thing, you keep looking for reaffirmations everywhere. So even when the next time when she's actually called me, she called me when I was in college. And at that point in time, I remember that, what had happened is at that point in time, I don't know why I didn't have my mobile phone, but I had to kind of walk a little ahead till my canteen, where we had this landline service. And that's where I had spoken to her on the phone. So I didn't have too much money to talk at that point in time. And I remember that she had told me that I like girls. And I remember that at that point in time, I didn't have so much money to continue that conversation. So quite quickly, I told her that I already know this. We were in our second or third year college. I think it was second year college. And that is the first time she made me meet her girlfriend. And I remember that at that point in time, I really found her girlfriend really fascinating. And I found her like really fashionable. And at that point in time, I was from a fashion college. I was from NISHTHA, of course, NIFT. So I really found her really nice, like I was like, wow, she's such a nice match for Sonal. And I remember that we had gone to CCD. And that's where we had a bit of this conversation. So again, that's something I think that Sonal has missed. But in my mind, it was like how that had happened. And of course, after that, like she came to Bombay. And of course, after that, I even like as her, I don't remember any conversations about her coming out. It was just understood that, okay, this is how it is.
So for us, there has been a lot of comparison as well, as twins, बहुत comparison होती है, right? और ये पूरा सीता गीता का फंडा मैंने देखा था. Whenever I used to see a Sita Geeta film, one was always tomboyish. Okay, like whenever you see a twin film, one is tomboyish, right? So I used to have to like, keep thinking about this, that, is that usually a case in a twin, like one is tomboyish or is it queer or what is it? But I think like our bond is very close. And like when we were small, right, when the Judwa film came out, everybody wanted to hit us because like the thing was they thought ki like, एक को मारोगे तो दूसरे को sort of hurt करेगा. But I mean, they soon realized कि एक को मारोगे तो दो वापस मारेंगे. But I think like for a lot of people, like they felt that because we are twins, she will also maybe be queer. But it also helped me because, a lot of times people say think that does parenting make a child gay? But both Rupa and I are the same parents. Everything is practically same about the upbringing, right? But our sexualities are different. So it's interesting.
Actually, that's one. If I can add to this is one thing which like I had a lot of the people whom I spoke to, they used to have this opinion that people can influence you to turn gay. But I was like, I've been with my sister all the time. Then I should be the first person who turns queer, right? So, but I'm straight. So that was something like which helped because it's nice because this is something which you can actually how do you say you can't contest something like this, right? If that was the reason, then we should have clearly been both queer.
Even with everyone over here, I'm taking the liberty to assume that all of the sibling allies here are straight, and we all come from same families with very similar upbringing. But there is nature, there is nurture, and we don't know which is what. But irrespective of what is, acceptance is key. Like it shouldn't be a no-brainer. And Rupa, thank you for sharing that. That's even like somewhere considering that I've been a part of this story and this situation. I've heard about the coming out from Sonal before, so it was interesting to hear your perspective. Thanks for sharing that. And now Paritosh. So Paritosh, NISHTHA mentioned earlier that you just hugged her and you said you live you be you. Is that how you remember it, or what is your take on your journey?
So at the start, it was like my friends were they used to judge her, like what is she wearing and all. So at that time, it was kind of hard for me to cope up with that situation. So as days passed away, so yeah, it's not fine. It's all fine now.
I remember one beautiful thing that he mentioned at one of our podcast recording at Amazon Audible was, I don't think there is anything different about her, and she's the way she is. And for a moment I felt, what is he saying? Like, how could he say that there is nothing different about me? In fact, I was expecting him to say something that, like, you know, she's different and I face a lot of difficulties, but he never put that. He was always affirmative and he was always positive in way of putting things.
Thanks, NISHTHA, for that. And Viv, sir, I'm going to come back to you. You mentioned about how Rekha Didi, sees you as a hero and how your relationship with Bharat Bhai has been protective, how Bhavi has been a mom. Can you think of a time when they were your heroes? Like, you've been their spotlight, you've been their charm, and can you think of one incident where these were your heroes?
So when I was talking earlier, it suddenly occurred to me that a few years ago, I want to see my brother and Bhabhi. I can't see them. Oh, they are there, right? So a few years ago, Bharat Bhai and Bhabhi were here, and I had given an interview to Times of India. And my next door neighbor is a family doctor of over 30 years now. So she read that interview and she came and she told my Bhabhi that, oh, I didn't know Vivek was gay. And so Bhabhi really couldn't like handle her question. And she somehow, like, ducked it. And then Bharat Bhai and I were sitting there and she came and told Bharat Bhai that this is what doctor told me today. She read Vivek's interview and I was there. So Bharat Bhai just told her that next time, if someone asks you a question like this, you just tell them that Vivek is a brother to us. If you have any more questions, please address to him. So for me, like that was like really a moment. Because see, a lot of time, like I am very articulate, I'm into conversations and all. My brother is not. Like Bharat Bhai and I can sit in this interview for 24 hours and he will speak 24 words. Rest of the time I'll take. So, but that was kind of very, very touching for me. I remember one thing about Rekha. She had come for the first performance of Ek Madha Baag. This was at PVR in 2010. And later on, like, she called me up, she spoke to me. And she said, like, I feel so miserable that we have been so close, so close, so close. And I could never understand what you were undergoing. You think today I feel what you were undergoing all those years and never letting it out. Like nobody would even think about it. Like I was very popular with girls. So, and like Rekha says, all her friends wanted to be my friends. So that is why they would befriend Rekha so that they could reach me. But for me, that was like, one moment which was like kind of, yes, this is where, my sister sees me the way I want her and the way things are.
No, this is brilliant, and I think I use that as a template as well for anyone who has any questions about my life. I'm asked them to come and talk to me, and I think Shloka and to an extent mom would be very happy to do that. So for me, and with Shloka being my hero, I just think the fact that Shloka is just there. Okay, every time be it a Pride March, she put together my Wonder Woman costume, and I will never, ever, ever be able to thank her enough for that. So the moment where, I thought of my sister being like, an extension of my being was a Pride March. I told her, this is how I need to look, please put it together. And she did that, right from the hair to the shorts to the stars. So thanks, and just to let you know that you meant the world to me and you mean the world to me. So, wo hai.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I think you've been a hero to me more than I have been a hero to you. So I think that there's an account that we can't settle.
Fair enough. Nahi news ke liye we'll have to kind of, connect over a call and lots of Theo brownies. But yeah. So, Sonal and NISHTHA, I have the same question for you, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So I'll have to request you to probably, give us a brief, because I've got another one quick round of questions for our ally supporters.
I remember the first television interview I gave, I was very scared and nervous. And they called her on that TV show by surprise, right? And it really calmed me down. And it was just easier because, we both were on the platform together, right? Coming out together. And I think other than that, just not just me, like she's just always been there. Yeah? मतलब मैंने कोई भी decision लिया है when parents like, what you want to do filmmaking, what you want to do NGO, what I mean, like what is happening there. But I think Rupa was the one when I was like really low, before I found Humsafar, she made me write like 5 points कि तुम्हें life में क्या करना है. And she made sure that, I do all the 5. And from then to now, like whatever has been my craziest, wackiest thing, like Rupa is like, I am sort of there for you.
Twins and partners in crime, that should be your like branding. But perfect. I totally see where that comes from. NISHTHA.
So being a sibling to a trans person is not very easy, especially when a person is transitioning and there are a lot of changes phenotypically visible and seen by the world, and the commentaries and whatnot people call out has to be heard and accepted. Paritosh had a lot of challenges which never reached out to me, but he always stood beside me. He was very comfortable even when I was playing different roles in his life, not just as a sibling, but his teacher, but his guide, his mentor, even going to the restaurants or, watching a film together. He always stood by me. He would come to the Pride, all the queer events, anywhere he would be comfortable. He would never let me feel even for a moment that I'm not comfortable or I don't want to come. There was never ever a resilience which was coming from his end until now, when he has grown up so big and he expects me to fix up an appointment with him and ask him कि परितोष मैं ये करूँ क्या? So he is my hero. He is my true superhero. Thank you.
A round of applause, a support space, as well as lots of cheers for our siblings. Thanks a ton, guys. You've been phenomenal, and you've been a part of our journeys in so many ways than just your presence. If there's one thing that you would want to change about the world right now for your siblings, joy, happiness, right? To add to their lives as queer individuals, what would that one thing be? So Rupa, over to you first. I know this is like a bomb wala question, but yeah.
So actually, what I definitely feel is, I don't know if that's something which I want, but I feel that there has to be change or understanding of how your sexuality can be when you are children.
Thanks, Rupa. That's a very pertinent point. Catch them when they are young and basically educate, train, sensitize, and make things better. A very important point. Rekha Didi, Bharat Bhai, would you and Bhavi, would you like to share what you would want for Vivek sir today?
For me, one thought has been very, very, very important, because I've seen Vicky's journey, and I feel, and especially when I'm working person, and I deal with corporates, and I always tell Vicky that also, that I think that the journey that you have faced, it should not be faced by others. I feel, there may be these larger foreign organizations who are friendly to these policies, diversity, but I've seen a lot of local corporates, a lot of smaller organizations who are very resistant to this idea of having diversity, and where that people can kind of have a coming out, and there is clearly a club or whatever. People can talk about their sexuality, their orientations, and it is kind of normal. What I want to say is, it's normal. It's nothing like, oh my God, yes, I am. No, it's normal. So I kind of personally look at it, and I try in a very small way, but that is something which I feel should be done. and is really critical because organizations have 5,000 people, 10,000 people, but I still see they are conservative in their approach. They don't even want to talk about that subject. So I think that's very important because we have a young generation. I mean, there are certain people who have the privilege to come to, I mean, they know about Humsafar, so they come there, but there's a huge world out there that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Rekha Didi.
अरे रेखा, कुछ नहीं तो मेरे लिए शादी की दुआ मांग लेती यार.
I so knew that was coming.
पहले ना आप लड़का
so knew that was coming. But yeah.
चल भरत भाई, it's your turn now.
भरत भाई, what about you?
सोनल के लिए लाइफ पार्टनर की दुआ मांग लेती हूँ.
मैं मांग लेता हूँ दुआ तेरे लिए.
हाँ, तू मेरे लिए दुआ मांग ले. हाँ, अपने तो घर में बातचीत कर सकते हैं.
नहीं, but भाभी, भरत भाई
कर सकते हैं.
है ना?
Go ahead as you want.
See, go ahead. I have green signal.
Please go ahead. Please.
Let live.
Yeah. But isn't that awesome? They want you. Like this Swayamvar is what is being planned. I think that's
yes, that's what I want to tell exactly. उसके लिए दुआ हमको नहीं मांगनी है. तुमको अपने आप को clear करना. That's it.
So yes, that's what she's saying. Go do your homework.
Shruta, sorry, I can't stop missing my dad in this conversation because my family, these are three people who matter the most. But that's one of the things my dad had said, find someone good, settle down. I don't care about the law, but I'll get you married. And he said, बेटा मैं आज हूँ कल नहीं हूँ, मेरे बाद तुम्हारा ध्यान कौन रखेगा? तो अच्छा आप ऐसा बोल रहे हैं कि आप मेरा ध्यान रख रहे हो? इसे नहीं, आज आप मेरा ध्यान रख रहे हो, मेरे जाने के बाद कोई आपका ध्यान रखने के लिए भी होना चाहिए.
Yeah, that is so basically sensitized workspaces and a groom for Vivek sir is what you would hope, and that Bharat bhai and Bhabhi as well have that hope. So perfect. Shloka, and Shloka, if this is not just for me, if it's for the queer community, feel free to kind of
Yeah, so I would really wish for families to begin with to be more accepting. Because I think before we reach out into the society, before we equate ourselves with laws, there could be changes, but unless and until our families come to terms with the child's sexuality, orientation, there is nothing more important in this world than the family's acceptance. So I think for the world to change their view of their children, whatever is their sexual orientation or their identity, it needs to first and foremost come from within the families, and the child should not find himself in an explanatory position for what he feels and what he is.
And thanks, because that is so key, Shloka. One of the reasons why I've always felt that I could take on the world is because I know I have unflinching support from you and Mama. And even though I'm a very private person, okay, in many ways, I know that as I said, that if something happens, you'll, gali wagera hogi, you guys will come and scream, but you will be there with a shovel for me. So now I have that kind of faith and trust, and that's one of the reasons why I feel that you guys are the wind beneath my wings. So yeah, and last but not the least, we have Paritosh.
I would want to stop discrimination amongst my friends and everything. Like I've seen people stereotyping, like, oh, look at him. So yeah, I'm out of words. I'm out of words.
I think your actions speak louder than words, Paritosh.
Yes.
So there is so much that you've already done, and there's so much that you keep doing to lead the way that I think actions speak for themselves. So with this, I think we are at the end of this super heartwarming session. I feel so positive, so happy to be with this esteemed group of people who led the way and who've done much for the world outside and for their siblings. So with this, thank you so much. I hope the discussions have been as enjoying and as happy that I mean, it's a common sentiment here. I hope we managed to translate the same on the outside. So thank you and have a pleasant day.
Thanks to you also, Shruta.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
This amazing
Bharat bhai.
conversation. Shruta, you really led the moderation so beautifully, passing on the question from one person to the other. And thanks each one of you for sharing this particular private story also, but more joyously publicly. So thank you, each one of you. And I think the first time ever siblings have come together to speak at a panel discussion. I hope that we are going to take back some of the things which has been talked about here, how to sensitize the corporates, the families. So that's something, of course, all of us are trying to do that. Just to mention, Swikar, the Rainbow Parents, as a support group of parents of LGBTQ children, and we definitely should have a support group for siblings, for sure. So that should be made by one of you people. So Rupa or Shloka, please take up the baton and form a support group for siblings of LGBTQ people per se. So thank you for this conversation. If you have any questions for any of these people on the panel, please put them in the comment box here and I'll make sure they see that and respond. And please, there's one more week of Kashish still remaining. So if you have not bought your passes yet, please go to mumbaiqfs.com and you can still buy a weekend pass. So thank you for this wonderful conversation. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Shruta. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.